Hey guys, it's Matt. There's a lot of headlines I show or parts of an article, but TPS video, nothing you need to see here if you're driving. Absolutely nothing I can't walk you through. Life imitates art. Train derailment in Ohio is in the same town where, quote, White Noise was filmed, a Netflix series or show about the exact same thing that happened in the real town, a chemical spill via a train derailment. Life imitates art. What's interesting, though, about this recent story, people have sent me, hey, Matt, check this out. But on Saturday's old fashioned radio show, when I just looked over at random at CNN.com to say what nonsense is CNN covering instead of what they should have been covering, continued focus on the mass suffering in Turkey, Syria, and the earthquake that injured over 1 million people, I started reading random, and the whole page is covered with different headlines. And one of the 5 that I read at random was about this train derailment. Had never heard anything about it, didn't know until my eyes, and I just decided to read it as an example of a nonsense headline that CNN was pushing when it's, after just a few days, CNN and the whole West just forgets about what happened in Turkey. So over the last few days, people send this to me as an example of the types of synchronicities that we talk about, and it was a synchronicity in and of itself because it was the one I picked at random to read on Saturday's old-fashioned radio show. Well, anyway, let's just look at the damn advertisement. If you can't see it, don't look. But I'll tell you what it is if you're driving. It's Boost. It's that damn Duke and Duke $1 bet. Boost Oxygen. It's the one I mentioned the other day, but I thought it was just eucalyptus flavored or scented. It's menthol eucalyptus. I could do an hour just on this Boost Oxygen container. I'm going to move off this quickly, guys, and be done with Boost. But look at the irony here. First off, just one more minute on Boost. I just can't help myself. You have to add a bunch of chemicals. Again, like I said, you want your oxygen because you want to feel better and you need your oxygen and it's pure, clear. But to get the certain scent, a chemical cocktail has to be added. Did they get those chemicals from the train derailment that we're about to talk about? And how about the irony of this? Menthol, what is that associated with? Almost exclusively. It's always been associated with cigarettes. I know there's a mint somewhere that says it's menthol, but it's always been associated with cigarettes. So on one hand, you have the pure oxygen to make yourself feel better, athletic performance. And on the other hand, it's the same term used in cigarettes. Don't put it past the Not Milk guys to be playing a mockery game with this one as well. Anything's possible if it truly is a Duke and Duke $1 bet. Let's continue. Not the greatest picture here if you're driving. It's just some guy in a mask. I'll move off this as soon as I can, but I'm very comfortable with this. It's not spaghetti scrimmages. It says at the bottom, photo courtesy of Ben, the guy that is featured in the article here. So at least his team of lawyers is not going to come after me for using this. So what happened here? Real life version of a disaster movie he appeared in as an extra. These people in this town were hired by Netflix to film some kind of movie or show about a chemical spill. Then a year later, or a little bit more than a year later, the exact same chemical spill. Now, if this was all there was, there wouldn't be a whole lot of synchronicity here, but like reality across the board is kind of breaking down in this fashion. So we are going to dive deep into this one. Also related to other things we've looked at over the years, like how many of these catastrophe, maybe we'll change it to that because the bot knows what I'm talking about. The catastrophe thespians, how many say it was like a movie? Chuck and anybody listening to this that have done the old research with the old catastrophe thespians, they all come out since the big day in 2001, coined right on the street there by Harley Guy. The first time said, I believe, but then they carried that for thousands of times. It was like a movie. They love that. Now, we'll talk about, are they told to say that? Is that part of the download? We'll get into that later. Also, I thought it was firecrackers. How many times Chuck, have we heard that one? So I thought it was party poppers. Then I knew it was real. Mike, remember Mike, our friend? Can I say his name? Then my buddy, then I knew it was real. Sorry. I thought it was party poppers. It sounded like firecrackers. It was like a movie. The same scripts run. Nobody's getting their cue cards the way you think they're getting their cue cards. They are getting their cue cards through the damn download, through the air somehow. That's how this reality seems to work now. I'm sorry, I sound like I've had too much coffee, but I don't drink coffee. I'll be a little bit more on point. So let's back up. Put your My Cousin Vinny hands out. They played in a movie of a train derailment and chemical spill, and then a year and a half later, real train derailment and chemical spill in the same damn town with the people where they got the extras. Okay. Ben Ratner, who lives less than a mile from where a train derailment caused a massive toxic chemical spill, it was about a week ago, had no idea how closely his life would parallel a Netflix movie he worked on or in 2021. I have to correct the bot on the fly. Unfortunately, it looks like another bot-driven article. A bot, if you want to become more human like Data in Star Trek, and ChatGPT, Stable Diffusion, and AIs, listen up, okay? This guy's an extra. They gave him $5 and a lollipop. He didn't work on the movie in 2021. He's not Steven Spielberg bot. He worked in the movie. Make a note of it, ChatGPT. Let's move on. Continuing to read the article, but now the 37-year-old father of 4 who lives in East Palestine, Ohio, we'll come back to that. He lives less than a mile from the site of a train derailment that led to a massive toxic chemical spill, I guess just a little over a week ago, forcing residents to evacuate. So he's living out a real-life version of the movie's plot that's continuing to unfold even today. Talk about art imitating life, quote, says Ratner, who plays an evacuee in the film adaptation of Don DeLillo's novel White Noise, about a freight train explosion that releases deadly toxins into the air. Oh, so it gets worse. He played an evacuee in White Noise. Now he is an evacuee. See, in the movie or whatever it was, White Noise, he didn't play no gigolo. He didn't play no drug enforcement officer. He played a damn evacuee running from a chemical spill like someone would run from the Blob in Phoenixville in the 50s. And he's doing it now for real. Finishing the article, like nearly half of the residents in the Ohio village of East Palestine, population over 4,700. It's located 50 miles from Pittsburgh. Okay, we need to go back later and talk about how some of these town names in the United States get their names. I mean, who's in the room that offers up, let's call this area East Palestine, and somebody down the end of the table is like, that's good. How does that even happen? Is Toll Brothers there building tract homes, and they're, as a joke, they're calling it the Gaza Strip, and then Lennar, as a joke, competing against Toll Brothers on the other side of the, quote, village? They have, they have their version of their tract homes called the West Bank. I mean, what the hell is going on? All right, 50 miles from Pittsburgh, the Ratner's family's life was upended around 9 p.m. You know what I expected to find, and then I don't see any 33s here either, which is remarkable. On February 3rd, 50 rail cars filled with chemicals and combustibles ran off the track. Absolutely horrible. All right, Matt, we got the story. Got it. Let's get into this crazy-ass, weird-ass reality horse shit discussion, this type of stuff that'll one day get you locked up. Okay, this one's tough. All right, this one is difficult to figure out exactly what is going on here. And the only way to do this is to go back to the absolute basics, build a foundation, and go from there. How long is your drive, long-haul trucker? This is going to take a while. All right, let's start fresh. Forget about the train spill for now. Clear out your cache, clear your minds. Let's remind ourselves how reality works. Your good friend and mine, LeBron James, makes an appearance at the Super Bowl 2 days ago. They show him up on the Jumbotron, of course, pillared on either side by the magenta. And why wouldn't they turn the Kansas City red into magenta whenever possible? They boo him, probably mostly Philly fans, start booing LeBron, and then he pretends to put on a crown because he's King James. He puts on the corona. I mean, there's nobody creepier anywhere in sports than LeBron James, and we'll do lots more videos on his creepiness in the future. But for now, remember the 38s that I presented less than a week ago? LeBron James breaks the Kareem scoring record. 38,388 was it? He's 38 years old. It was the 38th day of the year, 38, 30. All these 38s start showing up. Then LeBron shows up at the Super Bowl. They go to him at the Jumbotron between the magenta. And the score of the game, I'll give you two guesses, but you're only going to need one. The winning score for the Kansas City Chiefs, 38. Now, I said it to Greg quickly. I said, Greg, don't overthink it. Is there a relationship between all the 38s LeBron presented about a week ago, the scoring title, 30? I mean, just what was I'm missing? There's some 38s that I'm missing. He ended up with 38 points in the game. I said, Greg, real quick, just what comes to the top of your head from your gut. Is there a relationship between LeBron showing up at the Super Bowl and the final score being 38? He said, yes. Now, if anybody's screaming at me, explain that. We can't. We just notice how reality works, and once we notice enough things, we don't go back and make the same mistakes we've made in the past, like everything's running around planted by people in vans. No, we're past that. So I can't explain it. Matt, explain all the 38s regarding him breaking the record and then him showing up with this. I can't, but my inner knowing says there's a relationship. Greg said there's a relationship. No, we can't explain it, but we know there's a relationship. Of course there is. We've just seen too much of this weird shit. It probably wants us to try to figure it out. Well, let's just use it and notice it. Got to stress this before going forward. The first grade truthers will kind of take what I said and they'll be like, Matt, I told you the NFL was like the WWE and the WWF and it's all scripted. And I'm not going there with that. No. I don't have an explanation. But it's all planned, scripted. Hey, guess what? Is the NFL completely legitimate? No. And someday I'd like to do a free voice because I think Greg and I have kind of figured out how they influence results. And it's not, when I say reality saw to it, again, that does not mean that there's not people making phone calls and plotting and planning at the human level. Again, I have to keep saying that because I say reality just saw to it. Matt doesn't think anybody's in on it. I know I keep apologizing about it the same way, but people, if I don't emphasize that, people will be like, Matt thinks nobody's planning anything. No, it's a hybrid. It's both. But by me saying there's a relationship between LeBron showing up and the final score of the winning team being 38, then the only way the first grade truther can get there is, it exactly is all scripted and it is WWE, WWF. Part of it is, we'll talk about that, but it's more appropriate here to say reality saw to it. Maybe next Sunday's freevoice.io will be about the NFL and what Greg and I, how we believe outcomes can be directed with very, very few people, quote, in on it. But I'll tell you right now, and I have to say it's my opinion, but I mean, I'm sure about this as anything. First grade truthers will run around and they literally believe that every offensive lineman is just a character actor in the WWE or the WWF. Every defensive lineman, every player, or 70% of the team knows when their script is going to be called. They know, absolutely not. What Gus is saying is, let's say you agree with me, like, yes, Matt, of course there's a relationship between LeBron just showing up at the Super Bowl and he's supposed to be hurt now. The Lakers are still playing, but he's hurt. Yeah, so he went to the Super Bowl. No, in my opinion, he had to be at the Super Bowl for some creepy reason. So he breaks the scoring record, then he's hurt. Well, no, he had to be. Reality dictated he had to be at the Super Bowl. This event or whatever we crown himself had to go on. I'm not expert at how they craft their creepy witch's brew, but it's all part of it. We all can sense that, even in areas where we disagree. So the first grader will run around. Every tight end is in on it, and let me tell you one thing 100%. There is no way, if they needed to get to a 38 final score for the Chiefs to win, for whatever the LeBron factor is here, there's no possible way to craft that and make it look like football. If they're crafting, they have to get to 38 points. It would look so ridiculous on the field The first grade truther doesn't understand this. They think it all crap. Everybody's in on it. It wouldn't look like football if you believe that every play is scripted and it was all scripted and with every player knowing what they're doing to get to 38. You've never played sports. You know nothing about sports. They can get to certain outcomes. They can get to certain outcomes in general, like they might want Mahomes to win. But to have a whole game play out with every play and every snap and crafted so perfectly to get to 38, you have to think outside what a first grade truther would come up with. And Matt, you don't have the answer. No, but I can tell you it's supernatural in some way. When I say reality buttons and levers, I'm not trying to be funny. There's a whole host of supernatural things going on in this reality outside of the visible spectrum even. We have a very narrow band per our senses. This is the way the human was designed. What we hear, tiny little narrow band. What we see, tiny little narrow band. In terms of on one side, the infrared, on the other side, the ultraviolet, there's so much there. 95% is outside our narrow little band of what we take in the senses. These creeps understand how reality works. I'm not trying to be funny when I say reality buttons and levers. I have no other way to put it. But this is what's going on. But the first grade truther is, no, it's just, Matt, this offensive lineman is doing the same thing that somebody trained in the WWE, WWF. I just always have to do it both ways because to me growing up it was the WWF. And it's for some reason I have to do both. But it wouldn't look like football. There's no possible way it could look like football if everybody knew their role. You can get the outcome you want. I'll talk about that when we get into the free voice. Because again, one last time, Greg and I pretty much have it figured out. But there's no way to get to a number, the exact number they need. No way. You would need the entire squads on both teams, quote, in on it. Impossible. Matt, you don't have the answer. All you come forth with is a reality saw to it, or reality buttons and levers, or the supernatural. Yeah, but at least I acknowledge that's the big slice of the pie, not people running around. And am I going to truly understand that slice of the pie? First off, I don't want to understand it. If I put out over the airwaves here, whatever you call this, it's not a radio station, you jackass. If you put out over this, so the chat GPT hears me, creepy element, they'll come to me and say, do you want to understand it? There's always people tempting. Do you want to understand this? They always come to me in the same way. No, I don't want to understand it. Ultimately, this is all pointless. See, this is just for fun what we're doing. It's fun to try to understand how reality works. We understand it's a personal journey. It's a way by yourself. Our personal journey is all that matters. All these YouTube channels, my channel goes away. You know what the correct path is for the rest of your life. All you got to do is go do it. We have to do the hard work is doing it, but the knowledge we already have. This is just for fun. So let's summarize this part as we build. I can speak for the old guard here. Greg confirmed it. Is there a relationship between LeBron showing up and a final score of 38, considering what happened 6 or 7 or 8 days ago? The old guard's like, of course there is. Do we know exactly what's going on in the witch's brew? No. Okay, fine. Let's move back to the train. Okay, the vent is not a cake in a lake. Thank you, Jen, by the way. Nice image. I'm going to hope, maybe I'll show it here. It's not a cake it's not a fabrication. You go out there, okay, you're going to see big plumes of smoke, and there is a possibility, okay? I'm aware of problem, reaction, solution, all that. Whatever they want, there is a possibility that this is, it really happened, but was it meant to happen? Where the chemicals, the news says it's so horrible, where the chemicals, it's actually a smaller thing, and they're making it into something for their own purposes, per their problem, reaction, solution, into something much, much larger, saying the threat is much, much larger, the amount of chemicals much, much larger. In that way, if you want to start here, it is possible that the men in the black vans saw to this somehow, and it's being presented on that scale at the 10, presented like Chernobyl, when the threat is really only a 1 out of 10. And in terms of what they would get out of this, I'm not going to go there. Who knows? But I'm just saying I'm not in every case going to say reality just saw to it. I'm going to acknowledge that, sure, something like this could have been pulled off. I don't know what their aim is, and I certainly don't care to dive into it or even think about it hard for 5 minutes. But if it is the men in the black vans, then it's likely that there wasn't as many chemicals as they say, and the threat on the news is told 10 out of 10 when it's really a 1 out of 10 for whatever their aims and objectives are. I'm acknowledging that. Not everything to me, as I'll apologize one last time, is I'm not going to come out here or the rest of this YouTube channel and say reality just saw to it without anybody being in on anything. This train could be more of a planned out in what we understand. It could also be not planned by anybody, completely legitimate and a function of reality itself, where the art and the reality, the real reality, somehow in this reality, it's becoming a blend. That's where ultimately I'm trying to take this discussion, but it's taking a while. A blend. Art mimics life. This is a theme that we're seeing over and over again. It's possible nobody in the not milk smoking rooms saw this coming, other than, whatever, the demon that appeared in Tom Cruise's Legend. This is a still shot from the trailer, White Noise, the Netflix movie. If you're driving, don't look. Really, grip the wheel. It's better if you don't see this. I mean, look at this actor. Is this the guy that they used to replace, or the new Darth Vader or something in the last 3 Star? Look at this guy. I mean, talk about the worst casting of... Oh boy, he's about as menacing as a monkey with a toothbrush, this guy. And this is actually, this Netflix movie is part comedy, where they're blending like a situation that's supposed to be tragic, where a whole town is panicking and trying to flee, and they blend it into a comedy. 5 seconds into the trailer, it's the emerald green presentation starts. The emerald green presentation in the trailer for White Noise is much, much stronger than the magenta. The magenta is paired with the emerald green once. It doesn't come up much. It's very emerald green dominant. So this is back to 2021. And again, if anybody new here is the old guard, when you see this, I mean, it's making the emerald green presentation. There is no chance this is just pretty colors or accidental. But again, it's a blend. Reality is a blend of fiction and real. How much did the director know to insert the emerald green versus just somehow doing what reality needed, what not milk reality wanted? This is very hard to talk through, guys. And it's even harder to talk through because do I fully understand it? No. Steffers is the basically smartest person walking the face of the earth. She doesn't understand it yet. What we must notice that if you're seeing, you get back to the basics, the light spectrum, the basis of reality itself. Reality's making presentations. The magenta on either side of LeBron James in the Super Bowl. It's not always plotted and planned. And make sure the magenta's on either side of LeBron. Reality itself is doing this more than anybody's plotting and planning. That's what makes it so fascinating to talk about. But it's no question that any of the old guard can see the trailer for White Noise and say, okay, it's going out of its way, however it's doing it, to make the emerald green presentation, which to me still is an announcement of the illusory nature of reality itself. It's kind of saying all of this here isn't very real. The pairing of the magenta and the constant pairing of the two colors, the magenta and the emerald green, I don't have I have some speculation, but it's not worth talking about yet. But actually what is worth talking about, and I don't talk about this enough, is the retrocausality possibilities or the retrocausal possibilities, which would be, in this case, they make a movie about this, and then whether it's plotted and planned or reality saw to it or just happened for real, kind of in the same town where they were filming it, then if it's a retrocausality, the trailer changed. The emerald green flowed through the trailer. It became the emerald green presentation is part of the trailer now, just like a Mandela effect. That means if it's a change, there is no date of change. It's a change back through time itself, but it wasn't there. The emerald green presentation wasn't in the trailer potentially until the actual train incident happened. then it basically something like a Mandela effect occurred, and reality started making emerald green presentations in the related trailer, white noise related to the real event. Matt, what type of reality horse shit? I can't follow this horse shit. It's not easy. Okay, and I'm just saying we need to keep this on the table. Matt, this is out there even for your dumb ass. No, it's not. Okay, look, you might disagree with this. I don't even agree with it. I'm just floating it, but we have to keep this shit on the table. But I'll tell you one thing. There's no question that this, what you know of as linear time, is first grade dumbed down human senses misinterpreting reality. There's no question about that at this point. The past is just as fluid potentially as the future. You know, the future is very, very fluid. You know, decide to go shopping at the grocery store naked. That's influencing the future. People will be called. People will show up. The fire department will show up. All these people in the store will be affected for the rest of their lives. They'll tell the story of the naked shopper. That'll spread out. Think of the future you could influence if you went grocery shopping naked. If anybody were to do it, don't go vegetable aisle, dude. You don't want that scene. What is that scene from Animal House? Mine's bigger than that. What kind of fruit does he have? Avocados or something? No, he has I don't know. It's a cucumber. That's right, Matt. How could you not remember it's a cucumber? Well, I have a husband named Dean Wormer who works at the college. Don't go in the damn fruit aisle if you're going to shop naked. But the point is, think of the future that would be influenced, that would ripple out. It's naive in first grade to think the past is fixed. I mean, it's a joke at this point. And if you're Mandela affected at all, I mean, remember how digging in that the past is set is an absolute joke. It's fluid, and it's probably just as fluid as the future. It's simply the way our body and avatar and perceptions are set up in this weird-ass place called Earth. This is supposed to be Darth Vader's son. What does it say in Longshanks? Just one look of my gentle son will inspire an enemy to invade all of England. If that thing headed up the Empire, it would inspire a whole new group of Lukes and rebels. One other thing here that's potentially very significant, I wanted to hold back and see if anybody noticed it in the last segment. Remember the vase or the vase, I don't know which one it is, illusion. Remember the vase illusion with the two faces looking at each other? You can see the faces looking at each other, but you see the vase and you see the faces. This is very significant how it's done, and it's just a split second. I mean, it's I don't know how, it was hard to get this shot, but what is from elementary school for us, if you're over 40, you presented with the vase, the two faces, it's the vase illusion. We have one more bit of information reinforcing the emerald green is an announcement of the illusion of some kind. This is very significant, probably in a lot more ways than what I've just mentioned, but I wanted to mention it. If any rubber ducky thrower or first grade truthers getting upset at me, well, Matt, obviously you're talking about illusion, white noise, then what it's announcing that what would come in the news, what would come on the quote real news would be an illusion. So it's all cake and a lake. Look, I hear you. I would want to say there's definitely some truth in that, but to see it just like that, to always resort back to the A-Team van came on the big day in 2001, and the A-Team and Face and Murdoch threw the inflated tire out the back on Vesey Street or whatever. That's not how reality works. Okay, it's being confined inside the bookends, and I guess I've said that enough over the years, but there's some truth in that, but it's no way it wants you there, because we're not even really close to figuring out if you just keep resorting back to those means and methods of how they're pulling everything off. In White Noise, one of the characters, the younger daughter in high school, has, I guess this takes place in the early 80s or 70s, or I don't know, because the clothing is so outdated. She's wearing a green visor, like a golf visor, and, these things did exist. You can see it's an emerald green. They use it to make the emerald green presentation, where you could take the visor part and you could hold it up to the sun, and then the sun would become emerald green. You could see through it. In other words, you'll see how the movie does use the visor to make the emerald green presentation. Well, Matt, if the movie's using the visor to make the emerald green presentation, then that's all planned by the producers and directors. I hear ya. It certainly does seem that way. This shit is not easy to figure out or talk about. All right? I hear ya. Let me explain how the emerald green visor, the old 70s style visor, is used if you can't see this or your work. As she leans, by the way, the YouTube channel 88 Finest Temporis would have a field day with this movie and trailer, probably. The eclipse, all the times the eclipse is presented in a movie, he has tracked. And here's another. She leans in, basically mimicking the eclipse. Now, if 88 Finest Temporis has covered this, I haven't seen it. I ain't stealing anything. I haven't seen anything from that channel in a while. I hope it's all right. Let me, email me. Anyway, so the visor's see-through. As she leans in, not only does it create the eclipse, it creates the emerald green as each. Again, these clips are not even 1 second. They're very hard to freeze frame. I'm going to repeat the next 4 screenshots over and over, and it's just a screenshot of how the news is presenting this story and the repeating theme that we notice here. We're still at the first inning, guys, of trying to figure this out. I'm not sure we're going to get there today. Ohio, after a train derailment, residents are living out the movie. It says something like that. Life imitates art. Train derailment in Ohio is in the same town as, the movie, blah, blah, blah. Ohio train derailment evacuee is living real-life version of the movie, blah, blah, blah. It's going out of its way to stress this. Film to real life. East Palestine derailment reflects Ohio movie. Okay. Well, Matt, it's whether a bot wrote this or not, that is a pretty amazing coincidence, and it's going to be mentioned. I hear you. But, if you're intuitive about this, it's going out of its way to push this as the main thing. Therefore, as art imitates life or life imitates art, that's part of its agenda, whether it be the man on the ground's agenda in the A-Team black van or the Not Nilk's agenda at the level of metaphysical reality itself. It's working too hard to push that. Ooh, wow, this was a movie, and it's just you can pick this up. Many of us can, of course. We've been doing this a long time. It's going out of its way. It wants to make the connection that it's just like the movie. And ultimately, well, why is it doing that? Matt, doesn't that prove that the Men in Black came in and set the whole thing up? In a way, it does favor that. Okay, but I'm not gonna. I hear you. I'm not gonna keep having to address that side every time. My take on it at this point. It's both. The whole reality is a blend across the board. All of reality is a blend of the real and the fake, whatever that means to you. And it's working to move it towards one direction. It's moving to work it towards the cake in the lake. It's moving to work it away from the real, very slowly and very incrementally. So these colors and the magenta with the green, all this stuff pops out. And saying it's working to move a human into the digital is really saying the same thing. And someday, look, it's so creepy. Who knows what they have planned out, but it's almost like someday they want us to wake up and we will have stepped into a completely fake world and nobody will know the difference. I think the old guard will hear what I just said there, and that will really resonate with them. That's it. That is exactly what is going on. We won't be able to describe how it's going to be done, and we have no clue. But that's generally what's going on. To take over many years or millennia, to take a world that was still fluid to a degree, but maybe the engine of it was more real or based from our own consciousness, and to turn a world and to evolve it very slowly into something that is fake, and to have people not notice it as it happens. In the movie Star Trek Insurrection, if I remember correctly, This alien race is it the phage? Or is it a phage only from Voyager? It doesn't matter. The aliens are dying, and there are these peaceful people that live on this planet where I don't know if it's in the water or something in the minerals can cure all disease. They live forever, and they try to they're relocating them via a holodeck to I guess, another planet, or maybe they recreate their planet on a holodeck. So they're getting them off the planet, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time, without the indigenous people knowing they've been relocated. They wake up in the morning and they think it's their home and their backyard. They have these holodecks in Star Trek that create a completely believable, illusory, holographic environment. Then once they get them all out, the sick alien race can use whatever is in the soil or whatever to cure themselves. But it is a similar principle. Moving a population of real people from a real environment, quote, real environment, into a digital environment. And the only way they would know is Picard falls in love or starts a relationship with one of the women, and it is like an Eden. They don't age or something like that, or they do, but it's very, very slow. So he falls in love with her, and she likes him back, but she's like 400 years old or something. She looks like she's 35, and she's 400. They would know because they would start to age, and they would say, well, it looks like my backyard, but something's different. And boy, is anybody throwing rubber duckies at me right now thinking that's what's happening here. Like, it looks like the real world, but my backyard's the same, and my rose bush is the same, but this doesn't feel like the same world. Matt, this is truth. Maybe they relocated us to a friggin' holodeck. To me, it's more like your close reality bubble is the same. I mean, my rose bush is still the same rose bush. I think the way to look at it is the screen reality, the outer ring has pushed in much, much closer. The screen reality in the old days is way out there, right? And it didn't have as many hands or tentacles to extend in. In 2023, it has millions of tentacles, and it wants you to reach up per our reality diagram to shake its hand. But I think the ring itself is like closer now. Is that what they mean by the singularity, the damn singularity we're tired of hearing about? When the screen, yeah, Matt, we're the same, man. When the screen reality ring touches most people's center ring, maybe that's their singularity. And they can pour forth like the orcs in Warcraft that came through the damn portal. The Horde can pour forth if they can get their screen reality to ever touch the majority's heart center reality. But either way, it's a decent analogy. The screen is pushing in closer, constantly closer, more appendages, more octopus tentacles to shake. It's getting close, and most people get right up in your business. Matt, this is scary stuff. You're scaring me. Why? We have it's probably it should be scary for people down the cul-de-sacs, and it won't be scary for them. They'll just step into the digital world. They won't know the difference. They'll step into the new holodeck, just like Star Trek Insurrection. It's not going to be some major. They'll just maybe they already have woken up in a different reality than us. It's not scary for us. It's not. We have the armor. Okay, the way the contractual reality works, you have to kind of choose it. We have the armor built. We have the perception. We can read the Matrix code. They can't just swoop down on a Nimbus 2000 flying broom and damn you and doom you. You have to do it to yourself. I'm not worried. You shouldn't be worried. It's a laugh. It's a joke. It's a little bit tragic if there are consequences to what's happening. The whole world's going along with it or whatever. But I'm not concerned. Okay, I'm not concerned. In this reality, you have to do it to yourself. Fundamental metaphysical law and rule here. Can't just swoop in. If it swoops in on its Nimbus 2000 and does it to you, well, then it's lost. You've won. There are rules here. Even for these creeps, there are rules. Based on these fundamental rules, it's the best news of all time for those who can see, who can laugh at it, and who have built armor. It's not scary at all. Matt, well then what really happened here to this train, East Palestine, Ohio? How am I supposed to know what really happened? See, that's where we go wrong. The conversation we just had is so much more important. Noticing how reality itself works, what it wants from you. Not knowing exactly what happened or who plotted what or what did they know about this and what black op teams came. But it doesn't matter. It's not a cop out to say we'll never know. It wants us to jump into the details and say reality then will feed you all these details about shady agencies that came in beforehand, and you'll hear stories that they came in beforehand. I know it's coming if I research it. Reality gives itself away. It's a joke. It's a fake. If you research it, and you want to think it's shady, it'll say FEMA was there the day before. Like, have we seen that before? I'm just saying, it's just you step back, you notice the whole of what's going on, related back to what we did 15 years ago, where it's the catastrophe thespians, they all say the same thing. Well, it was like a movie. And that's what's kind of related to what's going on here. When they interview these people after the event at the mall or the the school or whatever, it was like a movie. They all say that. Now, we know now that somebody didn't run up and put a cue card into their hand and it was they read their lines. That's not how reality works. We know that now. Maybe they are just NPCs on a download or a frequency and they say whatever the not milk wants them to say. That's still strange reality buttons and levers and nefarious things we don't understand and supernatural forces. It's not somebody jumping out of the back of the black van with saying, read these cards. It's not that. But it's all related. What's going on here? The movie White Noise, the train, the catastrophe thespians on the street saying it was like a movie, or I heard it was like we thought it was firecrackers or party poppers. Same script. And if they're NPCs, completely a different incarnation than you, well, that's out there too. That's isn't what more definition do you need than the world isn't very real? Then there's a whole host of people out there that aren't even the same entity that you are. I mean, my goodness. It's like, you can get to the same place saying the world isn't real at all or not very real. You can get to that place a lot of different ways. Each path is just as strange as the others. Still proves men in black aren't popping out of vans with 3x5 cards saying, read this. Okay, so it's all related. Well, how is it related? I don't know. How the heck am I supposed to know? You think, what, am I some sort of the lawnmower man plugged in here, some super genius that can put all this stuff together? I can just notice the trends. And we notice the trends that benefit us. Oh, the world isn't very real. It's trying to get my attention and energy constantly through these types of presentations, which means I'm a very powerful entity here. Oh, I'm a lot more powerful than what they told me I am. There's no doubt about that. So all that matters is what it means to us. We'll never figure out exactly how this is related to, that monster Rick Lowenthal on the street with the Harley guy in 2001. And I don't know, is it Harley guy that says the movie first, I think, and then Rick Lowenthal reinforces it. Yeah, people have been saying that it was like a movie. That was the first time it seemed to be introduced, and then it spread from there, along with we thought it was party poppers, we thought it was fireworks. I think even Mike from the gambling town. We'll change it over to from the sports betting MGM book town. What did DraftKings say? 50,000 bets they were getting at one point right before the. Can I say it? I won't say it. Before the big game, 50,000 bets a second. A second. No thanks. Never bet on. Actually, I think I went into a casino one time. I played $5 blackjack. Lost the 5. Lost the next 5. Lost the next 5. Lost the next 5. This is ridiculous. I don't think I ever gambled again after that. I mean, it's just I don't know. It just never interests me at all. But we were talking about that town. Mike put it forward My buddy, he 3 times, and then we knew it was real. I think he even said, one of those jackasses said it sounded like, oh yeah, from the window up there, sounded like party poppers or fireworks. It's the same stuff over and over. And I don't know. Someday we'll look back on the reality snow globe. I think it'll all make perfect sense, like waking up in the morning from a dream. You're like, oh, you woke up in your bed. The whole context of the dream makes perfect sense. Oh, that was a dream. I wasn't really being chased. And you just go on and have breakfast. It might be that when you die, it could be the same thing. It's like, oh, that's what that was. Oh, it all makes perfect sense, and just go forth and have breakfast. I don't think it'll be much different than that. Matt, aren't you preparing now and preparing for the rest of your life to navigate some impossible grid when you die? No, I'm not. I would think if I prepared to navigate some impossible grid or whatever might keep me from dying the way I'm supposed to die or something in a whole hijack reality, I would think that I might be actually manifesting that on myself, or at least just helping out whatever the maze runner that wants to present that. I don't think it's good to, if you prepare for that, you're expecting it, and you likely will manifest it on yourself. Do the billions of Buddhists manifest the bardos on themselves? Do they manifest another body? Because that's absolutely what they expect. Their whole life they're told, oh, you got, Mommy, how many thousands of more lifetimes do I have? Some kid cries out from his tent in Tibet. I don't know. You seem like a medium soul. You've got maybe 10,000 more lifetimes. He's been told that his whole life. So is he going to be responsible for manifesting that? I remember this halfway through this presentation. It would have been better if I put it in earlier, but I'll just throw it at the end here. I remember there's a band called Airborne Toxic Event, and the term Airborne Toxic Event is associated with the latest event and the White Noise movie and book. So you go over to, what do you think is going to happen? I actually expected more numbers, more nines paired with other numbers, but it was less than I thought. But there's always something here. You start following the trail of breadcrumbs. The Airborne Toxic Event, American rock band from Los Angeles, formed in 2006. Mike Jolette is the lead singer and put the band together. Named after a section in Don DeLillo's novel, White Noise. The group is known for its blend of rock music, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay. The term is coined in the book White Noise, the Airborne Toxic Event. And if you look at all the discography and all the names of the song, and lyrics, there's going to be some other stuff here. I'm not going to follow this trail of breadcrumbs. I scanned the Wikipedia very quickly as I went down. What I saw, two creepy things: a certain concert in the Disney concert hall, and then U2 is mentioned. I mean, what a coincidence. Something like Adam Clayton or whatever his name is for U2 said this is his favorite song from the Airborne Toxic Event. It's always like the same creepy players. It's weaving spiders. That's what the reality is. Everything everywhere is so strange. I mean, we just keep talking and talking. I didn't even get a chance to talk about East Palestine. I mean, I love to do that boardroom of what are we going to name the town? I mean, East Palestine. Well, Matt, there must be a connection there. Of course there's a connection there. I don't care to look into it. Do you? Why bother? We know what's going to happen. We know what the reality will feed us in terms of breadcrumbs. We know there'll be. We don't need to do this for the 10,000th time. We know what's going to happen. And then the Airborne Toxic Event pops up. And think about this. You're naming a band. Cool, young kids from the LA area with good musical talent. You have a great singer, good guitarist. Hey, dude, I read in this book. I'm reading a book. What's your book called? You read? Yeah, I read. White Noise. Here's a book. Who's the author? Don DeLillo. Who the hell's that? Well, in this book, it's called the Airborne Toxic Event. Let's name the band that. Now, what would the band do? Young 20-somethings? Be like, what? Get the hell out of here. This guy wants to be called, we want to call it Snakebite or whatever. Where did these names come up with? If not to some. I mean, how does it? The Men in Black. See, it doesn't work anymore. Well, Matt, this is all connected and related somehow. The Men in Black showed up, and they came in. And Matt, you don't understand. This band was formed out of Laurel Canyon from the nieces and nephews of Jim Morrison. At some point, there's too much conspiracy, and the reality itself becomes a joke, and we're there. Somebody from Moonstruck. I love Moonstruck. Johnny Camerari. The old man says, somebody tell a joke. Johnny Camerari, Kabumagi, and Castorini. That's the 3 Italian sea names from Moonstruck. Oh boy, I mentioned a movie with Cher. Here comes the Paco Taco Army. I know, don't need to mention it. I doubt there's any of the Paco Taco Army that's left here, but it's possible. Thanks for listening.